Coach, hey, thanks for joining me today on this Simple Coach to Coach interview. Super excited that you can join me. Why? First of all, Mount Union Purple Raiders, hey, I'll bring you guys on, every day of the week if I could. But probably more importantly is what you will see behind me that I am inaugurating with you as the head coach of the women's team at Mount Union. Is check this out. This is cool. This is so cool. Wait, one. Wait. And there you go. We look at that, huh? All great YouTube influencers have LED strips behind them, so there you go. I'm playing the game. Anyhow, thanks for coming on board and tolerating me for the next hour or so.
I love it. Thanks for having me.
Notice it's purple. Notice the lighting's purple. Like, come on. All right. This is terrible. I'm so bad. Like, I got to come up with a better routine somehow. Coach, hey, all right, so let me just jump right into it. I think this is technically your first year as a head coach. Maybe you could just talk about your soccer experience. I know you were an assistant for a year, but how did you end up getting to the seat you're sitting in now?
Yeah, so it's been about 3 months of me being the head coach, so super recent. I played college soccer in West Virginia, Davis and Elkins College. It's like a small Division II school. I was there for 4 years. I graduated and I kind of always knew like I wanted soccer to like maintain in my life, and my degree was in sports management. So I decided to be a grad assistant. It was during the COVID year. I went back to West Virginia, Glenville State, and also in my conference. So I was kind of familiar with the area, familiar with the teams. It was an easy jump for me. Kind of during COVID, it was a little weird, especially out in West Virginia. It kind of is always weird, but I decided I kind of wanted to. It's like a state where like you either get in and get out, or you're stuck there for a really long time. And I was like, I need to get out of here. So I was already there for 5 years, and I was like, yeah, I think it's time to go back home.
Time to move on.
Yeah. So I was raised like right outside of Newcastle, Pennsylvania, so it's about an hour from Alliance. Seniors on the team, I was actually their captain for club soccer, and they reached out and they're like, hey, we're hiring an assistant coach, like you should apply, like we'd love to have you on staff, stuff like that. So I ended up applying. I got the assistant job with the previous coach from 2 years ago, Coach Kelly. So I've been an assistant here at Mount for 2 years.
2 years.
Then I was interim for the spring season, this past spring season, and then they hired me at the end of spring season.
Yeah. Wow, you're jumping right into it.
Yeah.
I mean, was it anything about Mount Union other than the fact that you knew players on the team at the time that were encouraging you to apply?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know too much about Mount, even just living like an hour away. Like, I've definitely heard it before with like, football, obviously, but I guess I've never even like looked at the campus or really dug deep into it, even when I was looking at colleges, and I kind of wish I would because it's a great school, academics and sport-wise, so.
Okay. I gotta ask this question because you represent from a number of different areas. I mean, are there differences between the players you saw in West Virginia versus the players that you knew and saw in Pennsylvania versus the ones you coach / now recruit in Ohio?
So really the only difference, I guess, in West Virginia was the school that I was at. The majority of our team was internationals. So girls from England, New Zealand, Germany, Spain. So like their style of play is a lot different. They're a lot more technical. Their footwork's a little more crazy than anything kind of out here in Ohio and Pennsylvania. But there's not much of a difference. Even playing Division 2 and coaching Division 3, like we've had transfers come here at Mount, and the teams we play in our conference are just as good as any team you'll
Yeah.
see at the Division
Yeah.
Two level. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. That you didn't see much of. I mean, I gotta believe at the top echelons there might be a difference, but
yeah,
I mean, you didn't see much of a difference in your experience as a player now as a coach between 2 and 3.
I would say like strength. You're definitely playing against stronger girls, a little more
Uh huh.
quicker girls. The speed
Uh huh.
is. I would say the speed is probably the biggest difference.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times you see like speed where I'm at now, but where I
Mm-hmm.
was at, that's just average, if that
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
nothing like, I wouldn't say anything crazy, nothing out of the ordinary.
Mm-hmm. Um, I mean, because I know on the men's side it's really strong, but maybe give me a sense as to how you view the OAC, the Ohio Athletic Conference, competitiveness. You have some real killer teams. Um, the John Carrolls, the Ohio Northerns of the world, which are always there. But
Yeah.
maybe just give
I would
your
say,
your thoughts on it.
I mean, Capital, Otterbein,
Yeah.
Ohio Northern are always the top three teams. They're always the teams to beat.
Okay. All right. I gotta ask you. I gotta ask you this: Is there what have you done as the new head coach? 3 months new. Is there anything that you've done or doing or plan on implementing for the team that isn't something that they might have experienced under the previous head coaches?
Yeah, definitely like a more set standard, a little more strict, not
Mm-hmm.
as much as I'd say like an extension of high school, more like we're college athletes. Like not many people get this opportunity, and like we're gonna take advantage of it, and the standard's gonna be a little more serious. Definitely with just like the sports teams here at Mount, like we're
Mm-hmm.
a winning college, like we're a winning
Yeah.
university. Like I want to ingrain that into the soccer team. There's no reason why we shouldn't be at the top because almost
Mm-hmm.
every other sport here is at the top. So just kind
Yeah.
of like ingraining that into them, like this is serious.
Yeah.
It's not just we're here for fun and getting in academics as well, but
Yeah.
like this is a commitment that you have to make, and
Yeah.
I'm committed, so like I expect the same out of you guys. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of my standard. I don't think previously it was like ingrained into them. It was more
Mm-hmm.
just like, hey, we have practice today. Let's
Yeah.
stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I want it to be serious. I want there to be a standard, and I want the girls to buy into it.
Yeah. 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 Mount doesn't like underperformance.
Yeah, no.
On the as from an
We don't like
athletic
losing,
program.
that's for sure.
No, that's not. And I do think there's room, right? Like I do think there's definitely across sports, but you could see them all to one degree or another slowly starting to make a mark. And I think I look, anyone who has been to Mount knows that the facilities themselves, there's nothing that you need really to be an athlete, right? Or a student athlete. You got the academics, and then every support mechanism you have available to you is there. And it's just a matter of taking advantage of it, or taking, like you said, I don't want to say seriously, but taking that part a little bit more seriously. Um, what's your approach on recruiting? Do you have a sense as to where you want to start recruiting from, or are you going to be focusing in on sort of that? Hey, we're going to the usual the Ohio, Western PA, West Virginia, or are you going to try to expand that out?
I would love to like broaden it and kind of get kids from anywhere. Really, like you bring someone on campus, like
Hmm.
90% of them are gonna end up coming here. Like, I mean, it's hard
Yeah,
school to pass up.
yeah,
Um, yeah, we really right now just the Ohio, Cleveland, Columbus,
hmm,
Youngstown, a few
yeah,
Pittsburgh, two Maryland, one Wisconsin, I think. But like not much out of Ohio, and that's something I definitely want to change. I think it kind of adds character to the team, brings a little diversity into it. Like, it's something we need.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking to do, yeah.
I was one of my theories is these days is that we're at a point where I think kids will go anywhere to play if it's the right school, like all these things align and they get to play. I think a lot of kids will go anywhere. It wasn't always the case, right? You sort of stayed locally, regionally. But now I think kids will go anywhere if they think they can make a team, right? So I think to that, that's to your benefit ultimately. If you're looking players, you're looking to expand that footprint. Like I said, I mean the name and the reputation is enough, right? Not enough, but
Yeah.
it's not like you're gonna hate me for this, Walsh, right? Like who's Walsh, right? Like you know what I mean. I mean that
Yeah.
respectfully. Although not really. But um, um, hey, let me get a sense as an assistant. You went 7-6-4 last season. You lost to John Carroll in the conference tournament. From where you were sitting, what was your assessment of the season? What were some takeaways that you got from it? Where you were like, man, if what like what you would want to do differently, how you would want the team to play differently, based on what you know.
Yeah, I think even the year prior, when we had almost the same record, lost in the first round as well. It's that like mid-season, end of season where like every year the girls kind of just drop. So
Mm-hmm.
kind of like keeping that momentum the whole season. Like
Mm-hmm.
when we're getting tired and that we're pushing through stuff like that, I think that's something we need to focus on, whether that's, more like recovery time and stuff like that, so our bodies aren't dead towards the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, not having overtime now could help, could hurt, I don't know, but um, yeah, definitely just like maybe sitting down and seeing what that changes. Like, why are we mid-season, end of season dead, but other teams like this is their go time? That's tournament
Yeah.
time. Like we should
Right.
be on our go time. We should be
Right.
excited. We shouldn't be ready for it to end. So changing that mentality to where like that's where the fun starts. Like
Yeah.
so
So it's like
that's
an
kind of
inverted, right? Like
yeah, a roller
you're
coaster
not
kind
you're
of
not
like
landing, you're not landing, you're taking off, right? So
yeah,
mid-October you should be like we're
yeah,
just getting rolling, right? And I think
yeah,
that's a
exactly.
great point because I think a lot of the good teams I hate to say, like the start is kind of the pain. Like, oh, we got to go
Yeah.
through it, and as the season goes on, they get more and more amped up, right? And it's a complete opposite. But
Yeah.
what? Well, first of all, let me just ask: any highlights come to mind from the fall? I know
Yeah,
that was a ways away, but
we had like a lot of like breakout moments, breakout players, I'd say. Our freshmen stepped up tremendously in the midfield. We had a lot of injuries, so we had to have some freshmen step up. So that makes me excited for this year because now they're sophomores and they got that experience at a really young age. So I think that was my highlight, was just seeing some players step up and really pull through for us because
mhm.
now we're going to have them for 3 more years, and that definitely gets me excited.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just pulling up your roster real quick. I mean, how young are you? Relatively young team.
Yeah, we're young. We have a lot of young players that play, but we also lost our starting three up top. So that's
Oh,
that.
yeah,
Yeah, that's gonna hurt, but like it's another opportunity for girls to step up again, and I'm excited
yeah,
for that.
yeah. L- Let me ask the follow up to that, which I usually ask towards the end. Like, and because you're in flux, right? Like influx. I mean, you've only had the job for 3 months or whatever, and so I'm just curious about what does the recruiting class, your recruiting class, look like? What do you have coming in the fall? And I guess the weird question is it your class? Like, did you do most of the recruiting for this team, or is it this was sort of the list that's been handed to you?
Yeah, so about I'm bringing in 10 girls. Two
Mm-hmm.
of them were the previous coaches, and the
Mm-hmm.
rest have been kind of mine that I've got over the last 3 months. kind of just, busted my butt going out to every recruiting event. I needed players, so was able to bring in 7 of my own, and one is actually a transfer from my old college. So,
Nice. Way to do that. That's well
yeah,
played.
yeah. So, had to do what I had to do, but I'm excited for it.
Hey,
Um,
all's fair in love and soccer, right? Like, yeah, it
all
is what
love
it
to my
is.
alum, but needed to get some players, and
Uh-huh.
was looking in and out of that transfer portal. Was willing to take what would
Mm-hmm.
fit good here. So I think we're gonna surprise a lot of people.
Yep.
I wish I had a little more time to get players, and I
Of
guess a
course.
little more time to watch the players that I did bring in, because
Mm-hmm.
I like to watch a girl 3 or 4 times to make a
Mm-hmm.
fair decision on her. And it was
Yeah.
more of like I only had like one opportunity to watch them play, and kind of
Yeah.
had to be like, I only have
Yeah.
3 months, so let's
Yeah, yeah,
figure this out. But
yeah.
I'm excited. I think it's going to be a good class.
Mm-hmm.
Next year will be like my first full
Yeah,
official
yeah,
class. So,
yeah.
but
Do you anticipate your players from this class play? I don't say play, but do you think they're going to get time? Again, just knowing the makeup of your roster and like, do you see them getting minutes on the field? Is it?
yeah, I definitely do see some of them getting minutes, and I won't be surprised if some of them do start, especially
Yeah,
with losing the girls up top. Like, we need
yeah,
replacements. So,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, I can see them playing and making an impact on the team for sure.
yeah. What's what's been your biggest challenge going from number two to now being the head coach?
I would say, like, I guess how quick it happened, the flip a switch, but also, like, kind of being like, now I'm that person they go to, where it's like sometimes it was just like academics and
Mm-hmm.
conversations when they're bored, but now I'm it for them. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
have to do everything. In the spring, I didn't have anyone helping me, so I kind of just was running the show by myself. And I think that helped me a lot, because what's no better way to get into something rather than
Um,
jumping right in. And
yeah,
that's
yeah.
exactly what happened. And, I asked a lot of questions, wasn't afraid to ask questions, was probably annoying with how many questions I still ask, but I need to learn, so I'm willing to learn. And so I'd say, like, yeah, just, I guess the time, I don't think I even realized how it was going to go down and how fast it was going to go down.
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of flipping that switch right off the bat, like, hey, now I'm the head coach now. Like, we
Yeah.
have to make some changes. We don't have a lot of time. Let's just jump right into it.
I, I gotta ask you, and I'm not. I've asked this before of other folks, and I just thought of it now because of like how quickly you got. Like you said, you flipped the switch to becoming the head coach, and you know, Mike Parnell, the athletic director there, I know isn't shy about getting the folks that he thinks are the right, like Coach Krems on the men's side, right? Like, just pulled the trigger very quickly when he was given that opportunity. I'm just curious, was there a purpose to your hiring? Like, did some coaches are asked to, like, you got to rebuild the program, and right, and to me that's a very different profile of a coach. Some other coaches I've talked to said they just want some continuity, right? Like, there's been so much turnover, and I mean, Coach Kelly was around for a while, and then you had, I forget her name, and she was there for a year, I think. I'm just curious, was there anything like that in your conversations uh, with
Well,
Mike?
yeah, well, obviously, like, any coach at Mount has that winning standard.
Mm-hmm.
But I think more the reason behind my hiring was like the fact that I've showed my commitment over the last 2 years, and I'm very consistent for the girls. Like, right now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only thing that has been consistent to them the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
With these two coaching changes and stuff like that, I've always kind of been that person that I was left with them and I wasn't going
Yeah.
anywhere, and I made that clear to them, like, hey, I'm not going anywhere, even if it was time for me to go somewhere, I wasn't going to leave them without a coach. Like I would never do
Mm-hmm.
that to them. They mean a lot to
Mm-hmm.
me. And I think the consistency I had and the commitment I had to them, I think that's what really like drew Mike into like hiring me
Mm-hmm.
was like I've showed like I'm ready for this. Like I'm gonna do whatever it takes to make the girls happy and for us to be successful.
Yeah. I This is a totally bizarre question. Like, are are you living in Alliance, or you are living in Alliance?
Yep, I live in
Okay.
Alliance.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. I'm always curious about that. I didn't ask Coach Krems that, but always curious because a lot of telltale signs sometimes for me is like where the coach lives, right? Like,
Yeah, I just like being around just in case anything were to happen. I'm right down the road.
uh-huh.
Like
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
anything I need to come back, whatever. I'm 2 minutes away. So
All right, I got to ask you the question I ask every single coach, and it's more like an unofficial poll. So now it's your time to vote. Overtimes during the regular season, yes or no, like or dislike. And I'll ask, of the four ties, do you think any of those would have been wins had you had more time?
I would
Lot
say
to
I
ask.
think every one of them would
Yeah.
end up a win. I'm hit or miss because it's like, yeah, it saves your legs a little bit. Like, that's the only positive I find in that is if we're playing 120 minutes on a Wednesday or 110 minutes on a Wednesday and then we play another 110 on a Saturday, like, we're dead. Like, we're even dead
Mm-hmm.
before the game starts on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think overtime, even as a player, were some of the best moments I've had, some of the best moments
Yeah.
I've ever watched, some of the best moments I've ever coached. I think it kind of takes that away from the players. And I do, like I said, I think if we had that extra 20 minutes, like we could pull out some wins. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
wants to end in a tie. So, like, it's like if we were doing that overtime, I want a winner. I don't want to play 20 extra minutes and we're like, hey, it's still a tie. Like, good job.
Yeah,
Like, I wish it was overtime and PKs or something to like
yeah,
have a winner.
yeah,
So since they weren't adding that and they got rid of it, I guess I'm okay with that. I guess I don't
yeah,
really have a if I'm for it or not because I
yeah,
do believe the best moments in soccer have been in overtime and golden
yeah.
goal. Like the game's over,
Oh,
you
totally.
so
Yeah,
I
so
don't know.
that's where I go. My choices are, hey, there's too much great emotion that happens.
Hmm.
You're 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there aren't going to kill you. But then I'm on the other side too. Like, yeah, it's kind of 90 minutes, solve
Yeah.
it, figure it out. Forces the issue a lot more. I think it focuses the mind. I guess is what I'd say. All right, I got to ask you another dumb favorite place on campus.
Am I allowed to say the stadium? That's where it all
Okay.
happens.
Okay, there you go. All
Stadium
right.
or the Mac. That's really the only two places I'm ever at, and I
Yeah.
it's the
Very
best
good.
places to be.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a pretty remarkable place, right? 100-year-old
Yeah.
stadium that's pretty much immaculate. Like pretty amazing. Um, I mean, it might be early, and so I'm more curious. Do do you have any goals for the fall, like that you could share and not be on a motivation board somewhere? And John Carroll says, "Look what the Mount Coach said." I'm just curious. Any goals or is that something that you prefer to leave to the team?
Um, Definitely like as a coach, I think every coach kind of always aims to be at least over 500. So
Hmm.
I want to at least be, I would love the last 2 years we've made playoffs and lost in the first round. I'd love to at least make playoffs and hopefully go further. I mean, anything can happen during tournament time. Um, Definitely just getting back into having goal scorers. We lost our top three, so I want to find some girls, and I don't want it to just be one girl. I want it to be multiple. It's easy to shut down one girl, so I'm looking to have multiple people kind of step up. I'm
Hmm.
really more just like excited more than like goals. Like I just want to see kind of where it will go as it is my first season, but
Hmm.
I definitely obviously want to win. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
every goal for a coach is to win. make sure the girls are happy, make sure the girls are being successful on and off the field, stuff like that. But I'd say my goal is just like, obviously I want to be at the top, but for my first year, at least over 500.
Yeah. Um, how do you hope the team plays? Like, what if you could snap your fingers and say you want Mount to play a certain way? What is that certain way?
Possession base, not
Hmm.
kickball. I feel like we've had speed up top, so we're used to just kicking over the top, let her kind of have her speed and do her thing. I want to move the ball around. I want to play pretty soccer. Like, I just want possession. I want it to look good. I think those teams kind of at the top of the conference, the reason they're at the top is they play soccer. It looks good.
Hmm.
They move the ball. They're not, putting too much work on themselves. They're letting the ball do the work, and that's kind of what I'm implementing to the girls as
Hmm.
well.
Yeah. Well, okay, so now you got a fan. All right. Love that answer. Love that answer. Do you think that's gonna be hard? Because I do think it's hard to go from Route One to, hey, we're now all of a sudden gonna play possession. Do you anticipate problems with that? Not
I
problems,
mean,
but like a challenge to do that, or do you think the girls in your interactions, do you think they would be bought in for something like that?
any new thing you have, there's going to be challenges. Like,
Hmm.
I'm not expecting it like a snap of my finger to happen. It's going to take a while, and it might take a year, it might take longer, it might take 2 weeks. Like, we might come out of
Hmm.
preseason, and I'll be like, oh, wow, that was a lot easier than I expected. And hey, I hope that's what
Yeah.
happens. Like, I won't complain. But it's gonna take some time, I think. But I think the thing with the girls is they're super respectful. They listen. They're eager. I think they also want that as well, especially the girls we kind of brought in. We had a transfer last year from a Division 2. She's been
Hmm.
great. She's our captain now, and she's a big possession girl. Implements it to the girls. Make sure, kind of that's what they're doing. It's definitely gonna have its challenges, but it's not something we can't do. And I
Who's
think
your?
the more we play, so kind of towards the end of season is when we're going to start seeing that middle
Yeah.
end of season.
I do think. I do think, and I think this is one of my theories. I think it's more than a theory, but right, the teams that play most like possession, hold the ball, want you know they want to own it, right? And they want to
Hmm.
move the ball, and they want to basically take advantage of it when they have the ball, and they don't want to put it into 50-50 situations. I think those teams have a lot more, I want to say longevity, but we were talking about, hey, you get this middle part of the season and you start to drop it because I think Route One is physically demanding, right? Like you're
Yeah.
expected to be all over the place, running after everything, chasing. If you do it right,
Yes.
right? It's one thing to kick it, but then there's a whole lot of press and a whole lot of different things that go on to win the ball, to get it forward and have it. I think that's harder to maintain an entire season. I think if you do hold on to the ball and you sort of play a little bit calmer style, there is a greater likelihood that you're going to sort of amp up in the season because you do find a
Yep.
tune like, oh, this is working great. Look how and you're not feeling tired about it, and you're not getting physically beaten. But
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's again one of my the way I think of things, which is sometimes is a little odd. Um, I was gonna. This one's slipped my mind. Oh, who's your captain? I'm sorry.
Um, Emily Beach and Jillian Pigeon.
Is Emily the tramp? The
Yes, she came from a Division 2, Queens of North Carolina, I believe.
okay. I got to keep my eye on these young Raiders.
Yeah.
Making sure they're representing right. Um, okay. Last question for you, and then I'll let you get on with your day. Um, uh, do you think how, how do you view we talked a little bit about the OAC, but how do you, how do you think your way, your possession-based style that you want to bring to Mount, how do you think that will play in the OAC? Does it give you a leg up? Do you think it it'll help in the conference run? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I do because I think the top three teams, that's their separation. That's why nobody can really beat them is they play pretty soccer. Like I remember the first time 2 years ago we played Capital and I was like, I haven't seen soccer like that in a long time. Like it's just
Yeah,
like it's not kickball, they're moving it, like their plays to goal, like they're
yeah.
just, it's beautiful and like
They pick you apart. They're
yeah,
really
and
good at that.
I think that's what separates those three from any other team in the conference. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely it would put us up there. It would put us with those top three teams, and it's
Mm-hmm.
something like I'm sure it took them time. But I'm since I've been here, they've been the top three teams, but I don't know if it's always been like that. So like they probably took time to kind of build that possession, kind of get everybody on the same page, and that's going to be the biggest thing. We're going to have girls, three or four girls that are like, yeah, we want the possession, but then you're gonna have 10 girls that are still used
Yeah,
to kickball or something. So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
getting everybody on the same page, and
yeah.
that's gonna be huge. But when that does happen, we will be at the top of the conference for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Um, okay, that wasn't the last question. One of them other popped into my head. Do you, is who won the conference last year? Was it Capital or
I think it was
only him?
Northern.
Oh, Northern one. They're the other one that just
Yeah, they're just
I lovingly say to um, Ohio Northern. It's like John Carroll. I love the way they play. I just hate the fact it's them playing that
yeah.
way. It's like,
I don't know.
I got the
Sometimes
hat.
I kind of like that it's more them than like John Carroll or BW because they're our
So this
rivals.
is
So
true.
like
This is
I'll give it to
true.
Northern. They can.
Yeah, BW, that's a tough pill right there. That is
Yeah.
a really tough pill. And I'm not, I always said if they changed their colors, maybe I would feel differently. But um, okay. Let me ask. This is my last question. Promise. D- For the spring, what did you do for the spring? You're 3 months in, so that puts you at May. So you're partially interim, I would think, at that time when you started in the spring. What did you do for this? What was your spring like?
Yeah, so in the spring you only get 15 practices. The
Hmm.
first two or three was under the other coach. And
Oh,
then when she
okay.
kind of left,
Yeah.
I took over. So I had about, I'd say 12 practices with them maybe. And,
Hmm.
the first one is just like, hey, like, we're doing this
Hey.
together. Like, I'm not going to make anything, like, I'm not going to
Yeah.
change everything on them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so we kind of just had, like, our typical fun practice just so they make sure they're okay. Like, I was like, do you guys even want to practice? Like, this
Yeah.
kind of, shocked us all.
Uh huh.
Um, so kind of had that fun practice, let them get everything out that they needed to get out, and then we went right into like I didn't change it completely, but I definitely wanted to take it a little more serious and
Hmm.
show them because it was kind of my trial and error, like on being their coach was this spring. So I wanted to show them like, hey, I know I've been your assistant the last few years, but like I'm ready to be your head coach. We're gonna do some different drills at a higher pace that are gonna be a little more in depth, a little more college like drills that I'm
Yeah.
expecting you guys to listen and to buy in. I know it's only 12 practices we have together and we only have one play date,
Yeah.
but like I just kind of set the standard right off the bat like, hey, this isn't a joke. Like, we're going to take this serious because this is my way of looking at who's
Hmm.
coming in the fall and what I want to do with you
Yeah.
guys in the fall.
Hmm.
So, really, we only practiced, I think, 4 or 5 days and then we had a game. We had our spring game.
Yeah.
So,
Who'd you play?
um,
Or
we played Walsh and Lake Erie.
okay,
So, it
Lake
was kind
Erie
of
Division Two, right?
both
Yeah.
of them are
Right.
Division Two.
Oh,
Yep. It was a
Walsh is
round
Division
robin.
Two. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's how to tell you how present Walsh has always been in my mind. Like we used to scrimmage him too, and whatever. Boy, I'm gonna get so much hate mail. I think if anybody, maybe I got to keep this one on the QT. Um, all, all right, Coach. This was fantastic. Really do appreciate it. I wish you all the success. I watch probably an inordinate amount of soccer, Division III soccer games, although I won't be watching any landmark games because now they're going behind a paywall. But that's a whole other separate episode. But I watch pretty much every Mount Union game that I can. So so I will be watching and taking notes, and hopefully we can connect again at some point after the season. But in the meantime, I wish you and your team all of the best. And I wear an extra large, so make sure all that gear, all that preseason gear gets sent my way, and we should be good. I'll say good things about you. Otherwise, forget it. I'm turning on my alma mater. But well, anyhow, thank you.
Thank you for having me, and I appreciate all your support you have for the Raider family.
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't have it any other way. But thank you.
Thank you.